These are some of the most disturbing and nightmare-inducing moments in Dark Souls 3. From being devoured alive to being reborn into horrible monstrosities. I've personally dug through the deepest lore, item descriptions, and cut content to find the most disturbing discoveries. One part is so dark that From Software themselves actually removed it from the final game. To start, let's look at the mound makers. The mound makers are one of the strangest covenants in the entire game. They collect vertebrae shackles, which are special bones found inside the spines of their victims. What we learn is that they believe these bones are shackles placed by the gods, so they murder people and remove these vertebrae, creating piles of their victims at an altar in the Pit of Hollows. High Lord Wolnir conquered Carthus and brought many lords to their knees. Wolnir sentenced countless souls to gruesome deaths, all with the goal to outlive them. At some point, Wolnir fell to the abyss. He then stripped 3 armlets and a holy sword from the corpses of clerics. The 3 bracelets kept him from being completely consumed by the abyss. After you destroy all 3 bracelets, you can actually witness one of the more disturbing parts, and you watch as the darkness drags Wolnir down. Desperately, he's grasping at the floor, trying to escape. Sulyvahn's beasts show the horrific result of what used to be his knights. Pontiff Sulyvahn gave them special rings called Pontiff's Left Eye and Pontiff's Right Eye, which granted power in battle. However, it slowly transformed them into frenzied beasts. Their ribcage is torn open, and you can see it shudder with each breath. Worst of all, if you manage to stagger one of them, it does something heartbreaking. It stays there in a praying position until it is attacked again. The Deep Accursed are one of the most mysterious and feared enemies throughout the game. If you look closely at their necks, they're not just covered in fur, they are corpses fused into the creature's hide. You can actually make out frail little arms reaching out of them. Both of them also drop rings that state how Aldrich shared his enjoyment of eating flesh. This led to many theories that the bodies are from these creatures eating humans. However, we are mostly left in the dark. It's speculated that they were people transformed just like Sulyvahn's beasts. Behind Firelink Shrine is a locked tower with a dark secret. After going inside and dropping down, you'll discover that the entire bottom of the tower is filled with firekeeper corpses. This tower is actually the grave of past firekeepers. When one has served their purpose, they're led to true darkness, where she enjoys a long-deserved sleep. Except it's not peaceful. Their bodies are piled up, stacked in coffins, and some even contain multiple bodies in it. Generation after generation of firekeepers, discarded when they're no longer needed. Just before the next segment, this video is sponsored by Boot.dev. And if you're like me and enjoy video games, especially progression systems, Boot.dev leans hard into that. XP, levels, and a clear path forward. You always know what you're working towards. And it turns learning an actual real-world skill into something that's pretty addictive. It'll teach you back-end web development from start to finish in Python, SQL, and Go. Skills that actually translate to real-world jobs. I mean, the median salary for back-end developers in the US in 2024 was over $100,000. I've actually taken a coding class in college, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it was 5 times the price and way less effective. Boot.dev does the opposite. The instructions are clear, the examples actually make sense, and then immediately puts you in a spot where you have to write the code. It comes with a 30-day no questions asked refund policy and a free demo on every course, so there's no risk. If you want to check it out, go to boot.dev and use my code ZVOKE to get 25% off your first year on the annual plan. Thank you again to the sponsor. I find one of the most horrifying enemies in the game to be the sewer centipedes. With dozens of arms, a horrifying attack, and you might not even realize that they don't have a face. The enemy is directly inspired by Jorugumo, a Japanese folklore. However, what many people miss is that they are designed to look like the bodies of drowned women floating in shallow water. They wait for you to approach and then scare you with an attack. Hidden away in the profane capital is a room that most players will just sprint through, except it contains several monstrosities of sin. That's literally their name. These are deformed creatures with massive hands for heads. The palms of these hand heads have gaping holes lined with teeth. What we learn is that these hand ogres were once female relatives of a sorcerer. It is speculated that his name was Emon. According to the lore, these women were involved in a rite which mutated them. And worst of all, Emon still stands watching over the church where they sleep. He's been guarding his mutated family members for a while now. As we know, Rosaria is the mother of rebirth, and we can find her cradling what seems to be a deformed creature. Rosaria, however, is mute, so her followers decided that they will collect the tongues of victims for one of two reasons: to either please her or to be reborn. We find out that these creatures are humans who have been reborn into just something horrific. It's theorized that they have been reborn one too many times, with each transformation slowly turning them into mindless mangrubs we find around her. Let's look at the Cathedral of the Deep and the disturbing reason why there's bodies sprawled throughout the road of sacrifices. Within that area, you'll find overturned carriages that were used to transport the undead. What we learn is that they were human sacrifices being shipped to the cathedral. Along with that, the evangelists were sent from the Cathedral of the Deep to gather victims for Aldrich. As we see, they are packed into cages, and servants are also carrying them on their back. The point of this road is to deliver people from the undead settlement to Aldrich so they can be devoured by him. As said by Hawkwood, he developed a habit of devouring men. He ate so many that he bloated into a drowned pig, then softened into sludge. Except it gets darker. When you reach Anor Londo, you find Aldrich in the same cathedral where Ornstein and Smo once stood. However, what you don't expect is what you're looking at. Aldrich appears as a massive sludge of rotting flesh spread across the floor, filled with the bones of countless victims. What we see is the upper body of someone rising from this sludge. That someone is Gwyndolin. Pontiff Sulyvahn trapped Gwyndolin and fed him to Aldrich. Except here's the worst part: Gwyndolin is still alive during the fight. What we see is Aldrich using Gwendolin's body like a puppet, controlling his movements and using his weapons. The item description for the Darkmoon longbow states that Gwyndolin was gradually devoured by Aldrich. Osiris was the king of Lothric and father to Lothric and Lorien. However, neither of them were worthy heirs in his eyes. This led him to become obsessed with dragons, and he tried to create a dragon child strong enough to succeed him. When Ocelot was born, the queen fled, abandoning the baby. By the time we find Osiris, he's been consumed by his obsession. During the boss fight, Osiris cradles something in his arms, an invisible baby. He speaks to it lovingly at first, asking Ocelot to show his power, to not be afraid. However, as you damage him, he realizes the baby isn't responding. Then he snaps, he slams the baby into the ground. You hear a squishing sound, and he goes completely feral. However, it could have been even worse, and in the alpha version of the game, the baby was visible. In the Irithyll dungeon, you'll find these enemies called wretches. These are prisoners tortured by Pontiff Sulyvahn's jailers. The first one we find is just hopeless. It sits there willingly. Then you come across two more. These ones drop the tailbone spear and tailbone shortsword. Possibly their own tailbones were removed and fashioned into weapons they're now forced to use. Or either they're wielding the bones of other prisoners. However, we do know one thing, and the screams we hear are of them mutilating their own flesh. And this is where it gets really dark. The reason they look like this is because they are failed experiments, all for the goal to turn them into dragons, as they have great power. Except it failed, and now they stay here in this horrible mutated state. Hey, thanks for watching, and thanks to boot.dev for the sponsor. If you want to watch more, YouTube thinks you like this video here, so check it out.